Right guys, today's video is really going to help you if you're struggling with a hook. So for a right-hander, a ball flight that's over-bending and missing too much to the left of the target, opposite for a right-hander. Now, if the ball's starting pretty straight, we know at impact the club face wasn't the issue because the club face has the main influence over the start direction. So the ball is then over-bending because it's either struck way towards the toe of the golf club, but you'll feel that, you'll know that. So today what we're going to tackle is the path. Often it's this exit position where the club is actually moving too far away from the body, effectively almost trying to swing too much down the target line. And I get a lot of golfers with the wrong concept who are actually trying to do that, who are trying to keep the club pointing down the target line and don't let the club move enough on an inward arc. So let's demonstrate what that would look like and the ball flight that we'd expect to see. Okay, so that's a real good example, and you can see how destructive it'd be nearly hitting in someone's living room. That ball flight started pretty straight, but severely bent off a line. So it was only straight for the first 40 yards or so, and then curving a long way left to target. That was a really good example, and it may have picked up my swing path there. And I was exaggerating, but I got a path that was nearly 13 degrees from in to out. The ball started pretty straight, so I'm sure the club face wasn't the issue there. And the strike actually felt okay. It didn't feel severely towed, but you can see how much I can bend the ball with a path that's sort of 12, 13 degrees in to out. So I've got to get that club effectively working a little bit more inwards. And in today's video, I will also talk about the difference from the iron to the driver. We're starting with the driver because that's perhaps where this shot's going to affect you the most. But obviously it's very destructive still with an iron if you're missing the green, especially if you're hitting shots where it's out of bounds. So we want that path to go more inward on the way through. And I have for you a fantastic wall drill exercise that I'm going to demonstrate where we want if we're going for a very neutral release, we want our hands and our club to almost touch the wall at the same time. If we were seeing the path going too much to the right, we would potentially see the handle moving away from the wall, but the club actually touching the wall. Or we may just see everything away from the wall too much on the release position. And more of a held off release, perhaps a fader, a pusher, slicer, would see the handle hit the wall first. The club would stay outside my hands. Now what we can do as a hitting exercise is simply put a cane at the back of our heels. And this is going to be my imaginary wall. And if we're going for a very neutral release, let's try and get my hands and club touching the wall at the same time. So it's encouraging after impact my handle to go to the left. And I'd like to almost get this to match my back and the heels by the time the club is almost at its first parallel on the way through. And that again might be slightly exaggerated, but for those who are swinging too much this way, this is exactly what I want you to feel, okay? Is that the handle and the club move inward on an arc that way. Now actually, not that we're talking about club face here, but a nice neutral club face position at that angle, would there be the toe of the golf club pretty much straight up in the air. What we're focusing more on is the path, so the part just after impact. And a lot of golfers don't realise how important that is, but you can't stop at impact and hit a shot. So by stopping just post impact, it tells me a lot about impact. So I'm just going to chip this on away, a little half swing, but really try and hold the finish position. I am a little bit past club parallel, but you can see here I've actually got my hands and club in a straight line matching the white line. The longer I swing through, the more the club will work behind my hands in this direction because the club shaft will be more at this angle. But if I can stop closer to the club being parallel to the ground, that's the release position I'd like to see. I don't want that club working too much down or down the target line. I want the club working on an inward arc. Now I often draw for golfers a little arc line on the mat when I'm getting them to work on this, so they can see straight line being the target, but the club actually working on an inward arc. That's from in to straight to in on that way through. And again, that wall exercise is just amazing for an at-home drill. So I mentioned there would be a little bit of a difference from an iron to a driver at the start. The biggest thing here is the shaft length. So I've got here a 7-iron and my driver. So my 7-iron's 37 inches, my driver's 45 inches. So there's a difference of shaft length, meaning I'm different distances away from the ball. When I'm closer to the golf ball with an iron in my hand, I would expect the club to work a little bit more inward on that arc. When the club head and the ball are further away from me, I wouldn't expect the club to work as much to the inside in the release position, but I still want to get the same sensations. So for me, and the drills I'd get golfers to do, I'd try and get them the same, whether it's an iron or a driver. I would just know that the reality is the club perhaps won't work as much to the inside or as quickly as it would do with an iron, but the feel is very much the same. So I'm going to be using the cane on this one. I've got it parallel to my target line, almost in line with the back of my shoes. Middle of shoes would be absolutely fine. And I'm just going to rehearse that position. So where I'm getting to just after impact. Now, how do I get there? If I keep my body down, if I don't allow rotation, it would be the club that would touch the wall, not my handle. So you'd see the end of the grip pointing at the camera here behind me. So to actually get my hands and club to touch that wall, I've got to allow body rotation. I've got to stop my body stalling out. I've got to really allow my head and chest to keep turning. And that's the big one. A lot of golfers are trying to keep their head down, of course, way too long. Let that body move, let that body rotate. Let's not get too static, and we can hit that position and hopefully neutralize our ball flight. Let's give it a go. Well, that really felt like I rotated my body nicely. My arms are finishing much more over my left shoulder. And I really don't want to hit another one because it was a fairway found. You can see there a nice direction. So my swing thought to get my handle and club to work this way through the ball was more to do with the rotation. But obviously I can do some little rehearsal movements trying to see or feel where that club gets to just post impact, because it tells me a lot about impacts. So let's rehearse this move here and then carry the swing on. And I know if you can improve that release position, it's really going to help your swing path and therefore neutralize the amount of curve that you create. And the key feel for me is definitely to do with this rotational part here through the golf ball. Free up your movement, and I know you're going to hit some more fairways. If you do enjoy the content, if it has helped your game, put some comments below. Make sure you hit the thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more content just like this.